My name is Tess Hollings, and at 33 years old, I thought I had finally built the kind of life no one could take from me. This house, 4 bedrooms, wraparound porch, oak floors polished to a shine, wasn't just a property, it was proof. Proof that every sleepless night coding until my fingers cramped, every shift I worked through college while others partied, had led somewhere real. Today was my housewarming party. I should have been celebrating. Instead, I stood frozen in the middle of my own living room, champagne glass half lifted, as my sister's hand gripped my arm like she owned something here. She didn't. But the look in her eyes said otherwise. "I'm just saying," she began sweetly, voice loud enough to quiet the room, "this place, it's perfect for a real family." I blinked. "Excuse me? 3 kids, Tess. They need space. You're alone. Why not make a gesture of love? You always said you wanted to support family." That was Kendra, bold, entitled, polished in a way that could mask rot if you didn't look too close. Standing beside her, my mother, Barbara, nodded like a judge rendering a final verdict. "Tess, honey," she said gently, "it's time to think about what's best for the children. You could find something smaller. A condo downtown, maybe. This house is too much for one person anyway." Laughter and conversation from moments ago had vanished. My guests, colleagues, mentors, neighbors, stood frozen, some with drinks mid-air, unsure whether this was a joke or some twisted performance. It wasn't. Because 14 years ago, at another turning point in my life, these same 2 women took something from me that I could never get back. And now, they thought they could walk into this house, my life, and take again. But they'd forgotten one thing. I wasn't the same girl who left home at 18 with nothing but a backpack and a spine made of hope. They had no idea who they were standing in front of now. I turned 18 on a Wednesday, but no one in my family remembered until dinner. I came home from my after-school job, tired, cold, smelling faintly of fryer grease, and found my mother and sister hunched over the kitchen table. Spreadsheets were spread out like war plans, and Kendra was rubbing her pregnant belly in slow, deliberate circles. That would have been her 3rd child with Eric, her banker husband, from a family that always seemed to be just one bad quarter away from a temporary adjustment. I dropped my bag, opened the fridge, and found a leftover half-slice of meatloaf. No cake, no candle, no card. Just my mother glancing up, distracted, and saying, "There's rice on the stove if you want." I sat down with my microwave dinner and dared to ask, "What are you working on?" Kendra sighed like I'd interrupted a board meeting. "Budgeting. Eric's bonus was smaller than expected. We need to move before the baby comes." I nodded. That was the script. Kendra needed, and the family gave, always. But then I noticed something out of place among the financial printouts. A manila folder with my name scrawled on the front. I reached for it, and Mom slapped her hand over mine. "Tess," she said in her best "let me handle this" tone, "we were going to talk to you about college." My stomach turned cold. "You've already got a partial scholarship," Kendra added quickly, "and community college isn't the end of the world. Plenty of people transfer later." I stared at them, not fully understanding, until my mother said the words out loud. "We're going to use your college fund to help with the down payment. Just a portion. You'll still figure it out." They said it like it was noble, like it was my duty. "That money was for my tuition," I said, voice small. "Dad set it aside before the divorce." "And I'm raising 3 kids," Kendra snapped. "Do you expect little Benjamin to sleep in a closet while you chase some fancy tech dream?" That's when it clicked. I wasn't a daughter to them. I was a resource, a thing to redirect when the golden child needed something shinier. And when I refused, when I said no, my mother didn't argue. She issued a line I'd come to understand as the moment everything changed. "Then maybe you should pack your things. You're 18 now, you can figure it out on your own." So I did. I packed a single suitcase, clothes, laptop, my acceptance letters, and left. No one stopped me. No one asked where I'd go. That night, I parked my rusted Honda in a supermarket lot and used my work hoodie as a pillow. I cried for exactly 8 minutes. Then I opened my laptop and started researching community college housing, work-study programs, and side gigs for someone who didn't yet exist in the world as more than a GPA and a name on someone else's account. That birthday gift, being discarded, shaped every decision that followed. And it's why, 14 years later, I stood in my dream home with marble counters and programmable light fixtures, watching the same two women try to take from me again. But this time, I was ready. Those first few weeks after I left home felt like a slow-motion car crash. No impact, just a steady awareness that I was spinning and no one was coming to stop it. I showered at the gym, where my barista job gave me a discount membership. I studied in the campus library until midnight, then parked in the farthest corner of the lot and curled up with a blanket I kept in the back seat. My diet was 70% instant noodles and 30% adrenaline. But I was free. And I knew, even then, that freedom came at a cost. I picked up shifts wherever I could, tutoring freshman calculus, folding clothes at a consignment store, even transcribing audio files for a freelance site that paid just enough to keep gas in the tank. I juggled it all while clinging to my 4.0 GPA like it was a life raft. No one in my family called to check if I was alive. Until one rainy afternoon in the library, when I fell asleep over my laptop and woke up to a gentle tap on my shoulder. It was Professor Madeline Quinn, head of the computer science department, known for her blunt grading and soft heart. She didn't ask if I was okay. She just said, "You're coming with me." She brought me to her modest house, walked me to the guest room, and handed me a towel. "This is temporary, but no one should be figuring out Java loops while sleeping in their car." I lived there for a year. Professor Quinn became more than a mentor. She became the first adult who saw me, not as a disappointment or a tool, but as someone with potential worth investing in. She helped me apply for emergency housing grants, connected me to a student startup lab, and she introduced me to Harper Liu, the only other woman in our advanced AI course who didn't roll her eyes when I corrected her syntax. Harper was chaos in motion, half-done thoughts and midnight redesigns. But we clicked. She dreamed in color. I thought in code. Together, we started building a budgeting app for college students who, like us, had nothing and needed to make nothing stretch. We called it Nestwise. It was ugly at first, clunky UI, bugs everywhere, but it did something most apps didn't. It understood survival mode. By senior year, we had real users, classmates tracking their grocery budgets, single moms managing gig income, students paying off tuition in crumbs. We skipped spring break to code. We missed parties to pitch at student innovation expos. I graduated with honors and 3 job offers in tech consulting. But instead of taking a stable job with a benefits package and paid vacation, I chose Harper and the app. We moved into a tiny apartment with drafty windows, 1 bathroom, and no insulation. We split rent, built in 14-hour stretches, and lived off gas station coffee and hope. The world didn't believe in us yet. Investors said we were too green and too niche. One even told us that broke college students were a terrible demographic to design for. But that was fine, because I wasn't building Nestwise for the world. I was building it for the girl who once sat in a cold car with a stolen future and a stubborn refusal to stay broken. When Nestwise was acquired, Harper and I were sitting on the floor of our apartment, eating cereal out of mugs because we donated most of our dishes before moving. The email came at 11:42 p.m., an offer from a major fintech firm that wanted our platform integrated into their suite. We didn't scream. We stared. Then we both started crying, silently, shoulders shaking in the glow of one overworked desk lamp. I was 31 when the deal closed. The numbers were life-altering. I paid off the remainder of my student loans, maxed out retirement accounts, and tucked the rest into investments managed by people who didn't blink when I said the word trust structure. But I didn't buy a mansion in the hills. I found a quiet older home in a walkable neighborhood just outside the city. Craftsman style, ivy along the fences, a front porch made for thinking. It cost $960,000, nearly the same as the home my sister once bought with my college fund. The irony didn't escape me. I spent months renovating it, reclaimed wood for the floors, hand-picked tile for the backsplash, solar panels on the roof. Every detail was intentional. This house wasn't just shelter. It was a monument to self-respect. And when it was finished, I did something I wasn't sure was wise. I sent out housewarming invitations, friends, mentors. Harper, of course, my real family, the one I'd chosen. But I also sent 3 envelopes that felt heavier than the rest. One to my mother, one to my sister Kendra, and one to my father. Dad responded quickly, "Proud of you. I'll be there." He had moved back to town after his second divorce and was cautiously working his way into my life again. We were taking it slow, dinners, coffee, honest conversations. He had his own regrets. Mom called. Her tone was light, like nothing had ever gone wrong. "Well, this is unexpected, Tess, but of course we'll come. You know how much Kendra loves a well-done home." Kendra sent a single-line text. "Looking forward to seeing how you're doing." I told Harper I didn't expect anything from them. I wasn't looking for apologies. I just wanted to see, clearly, what role, if any, they still played in my story. The day of the party arrived bright and cold. The catering staff set up stations along the open-plan kitchen. There were mini quiches, charcuterie boards, warm fig tarts. Harper brought champagne and strung fairy lights along the back deck. Professor Quinn came early, her husband in tow, beaming at every corner like I'd built it for her. The house filled quickly with warmth. Old roommates, startup friends, neighbors who brought lemon bread, and sincere questions about wiring. Dad arrived with a bottle of Bordeaux and a box of old photos I hadn't seen since childhood. We talked on the porch. There was a kind of peace there I didn't recognize at first. And then, just before 4, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Kendra in a tailored coat, Mom behind her in muted pearls, and Eric, her husband, awkwardly holding a potted orchid. The 3 children trailed behind them, older now, Thomas, Natalie, and Ben, eyes wide, coats too thin for the cold. "Wow," Kendra said, stepping inside like she still lived here. "You really did well for yourself." I smiled politely, then turned to the kids. "There's a game room upstairs, second door on the right, snacks too." As they vanished up the stairs, Kendra ran her hand along the marble countertop. Mom followed silently, eyes scanning the space. They didn't know it yet, but they weren't touring a gift. They were stepping into the courtroom I had quietly built. The house was buzzing with guests and quiet admiration. Everyone I introduced to my family shook hands politely, then glanced at me, searching for confirmation. "Are these the ones?" They were. Kendra, meanwhile, toured the home like she was at an open house she already intended to bid on. She opened closet doors, commented on the potential of the backyard, stared at the 4th bedroom, and said aloud, "Perfect for bunk beds." I pretended not to hear. Then, as dessert was served, flourless chocolate cake, plated by the caterers in delicate swirls, I tapped my glass. "Thank you all for coming," I said. "This house is more than a home to me. It's a symbol of grit, survival, and rebuilding. I appreciate each of you who believed in me when I had nothing to offer but potential." Applause, some cheers. And then, Kendra's voice cut through the room like a blade wrapped in velvet. "As Tess's sister," she said, stepping up beside me and placing a manicured hand on my arm, "I just want to say how proud I am, and also how excited I am. Because we've been searching for a home just like this." The room fell utterly silent. 3 kids, 1 salary. Eric's been going through changes at work, she went on. And this neighborhood is in the school district we want. Tess, this house would be perfect for us. I pulled my arm away. "I'm sorry, what?" Mom stepped in as if rehearsed. "You're single, sweetie. No children. A condo would be more your style. Think of what this home could mean for your sister's family. Isn't that worth considering?" Even the caterers stopped moving. I took a breath. My heart wasn't racing, not this time. I reached for my phone, tapped a few buttons, and cast my screen to the living room TV. A PDF appeared, title bold at the top, Restraining Order, filed February 12, 2009. Plaintiff, Tess Hollings. "What is this?" Kendra asked, voice brittle. "You remember," I said evenly. "You and Mom told me to leave on my 18th birthday. And when I did, someone opened credit cards and took out a personal loan in my name. Over $45,000 in debt before I even started college. Eric blinked. That can't be? The application used my social security number. The loan was deposited directly into an account you co-signed, Kendra. Her face paled, but I didn't stop. I filed this order not to punish you, but to protect myself. I didn't press charges then, but I kept every document, every signature, including this one. I zoomed in, where someone spelled my middle name wrong trying to forge it. Gasps, a few whispers. Professor Quinn folded her arms, eyes like ice. Eric stared at his wife. You told me that money came from your mother. Kendra's lips parted, then closed. And that's not all, I said, swiping to the next screen. Eric, you might want to take a look at these. Investment transfers, business loans, 6 failed ventures, all using your joint accounts. Eric stepped forward, stunned. I never approved any of this. No, I said softly. But she didn't need your approval. She had your trust. I turned back to Kendra and Mom. You came here to take something again. But I'm not 18 anymore, and this house isn't a bargaining chip. Mom's voice shook. But we're family. I nodded. Which is exactly why I'll do one thing. I'll set up education funds for the kids. But this house, this life, you don't get to claim it. The silence in the room wasn't awkward. It was surgical. My mother's expression locked, brittle with humiliation. Kendra's mask had slipped completely, her eyes scanning the faces around her, realizing she'd lost the room. And me. Finally, Mom picked up her purse. Come on, Kendra. Children, we're leaving. The kids can stay a little longer, I said calmly. If Eric wants. Eric hesitated. Yeah. If that's okay, I'd like them to. Mom turned to me sharply. So this is who you are now? You'd rather humiliate your own family than show a little compassion? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Harper stepped forward, eyes cool. She's not humiliating anyone. You did that all by yourselves. They left in silence, the door shutting behind them like punctuation. Slowly, the party resumed. People didn't ask questions. They just looked at me with something different in their eyes. Not sympathy, not curiosity, respect. Later, Eric stayed behind while Harper and I cleared glasses. He stood by the fireplace, staring at the now blank television screen. She told me you gave her the college fund, he said. That you didn't want it, said you volunteered. I raised an eyebrow. Sounds familiar. I believed her, he said. I didn't want to see what she was really doing. She was always good at making selfishness sound like sacrifice. He nodded. I'm filing for divorce. I should have done it years ago. I figured that was coming. I want the kids to stay in touch with you, especially Thomas. He's really drawn to you, and tech. I'd like that. I'll follow through with the education funds. College only, locked, untouchable. His shoulders sagged. That means everything. 2 weeks later, I met Thomas for Cocoa and Code. He brought his laptop, showed me a buggy but ambitious game he'd started. His eyes lit up as he explained the logic. I didn't fix his mistakes. I asked him how he wanted to solve them. Natalie shared her latest science project like a TED Talk. Ben, predictably, challenged me to a dinosaur quiz and cheered when he won. They were bright, good-hearted kids. None of this was their fault. And somehow, in their company, something in me softened. Not toward their mother, but toward the future. Then came the email. Kendra. Long, rambling. Not quite an apology, but a rough draft of one. She admitted the identity theft, said Mom pushed her, said she didn't know how to be better then. I didn't answer for days. But eventually, I met her in public. We talked. She looked older, smaller, less sure of herself. I don't expect forgiveness, she said quietly. Good, I replied, because it's not ready yet. But I saw it in her, something I hadn't seen before. Not guilt, not shame, just awareness. That she'd run out of shortcuts, that the path forward would require effort. That night, I sat on my porch, tea in hand, quiet all around me. They had once taken everything I had. Now I had everything I needed, on my terms. And no one, not my mother, not my sister, would take it from me again, not ever again.